So cool. We're here with Gabe Gross, founder and owner of Hero Moving. So yeah, I'm excited to kick things off. We haven't done a podcast since post flood, so it's been a couple months. Um, Happy to have you on.
Thank you.
So yeah, maybe we can just start off with, you know, give us a high level overview of the business. Like, what is the business? Where are you located? How many employees do you have? And then we'll get into your origin story.
All right, sure. Yeah, my name's Gabriel. The company's called Hero Moving Hawaii, and we're a local, inner island, and long distance furniture mover. Basically, we do household and commercial, and we have the capability to move something across the street or the next block, or from here to anywhere in the world, and also anything from anywhere in the world to the Hawaiian Islands, that being Maui, Oʻahu, Big Island in Kauai. We can make it happen. So that's in a nutshell. And we also do storage.
Awesome. And you live in Wailua,
Yeah.
and work, I guess, is the company based here, or maybe we'll get into that.
Yeah, I've been here in Wailua for the last about 8 years, and the company's out of Waikele, which is just a half-hour drive from here. Very convenient. So yeah, but a lot of our guys that work with us live here in North Shore too, and most of our trucks are all around here.
Right on. Good deal. So yeah, maybe we can just get into it. So typically I go into the origin story. So if you can just give us a little background, like where are you from? What was life like growing up? And maybe like one of the first real entrepreneurial endeavors you had growing up.
Yeah, I was born in Brazil, and I was raised, I guess, very far away from business. My parents, even though they had things like we were raised in kind of a Christian sect or cult kind of thing. And it's another story, but my parents had to do what they called provision, which means just go out and put your face out there and get donations for the community. And so they didn't have, uh, uh, cash money. They just asked for things. So I think the first influences, I guess, on me was this kind of blind faith, or just having faith that things are going to work out. And, the home, I lived anywhere from 20 to 80, 100 people in one big compound up until I was about 13 from when I was born. This was all in Brazil. So I guess my first reference of business would be just put your face out there and things will happen. But yeah,
Where in Brazil is this?
mostly São Paulo, Belo Horizonte, Cuiabá. They moved. Like, I remember being in a different city every 3 to 4 years with my parents until I was about 13, and they left the group, and then we got in São Paulo, which is just this huge metropolis, like 12 million people, and just a chaotic town. And then I was 12 when I got my first job as an office runner, and then from there, I worked in a mechanic shop. And then when I was like 15, 16, I decided to teach English because my dad's American. My dad always taught English. So I thought that would be an easy thing to get into. And I did that till I was about 22. And I left Brazil to the States. And then I've been in the States for 23 years.
So, yeah, it kind of reminds me of like talking with some of my Mormon friends who, they grew up doing the missionaries and door knocking, and they say it's like such a good business experience. It's just, I did some of that myself, like even working for a nonprofit, just like going around and door knocking and trying to get money.
It takes, I guess, just this endless optimism that things, you get 20 just doors in your face, and then at some point somebody says yes, and your whole day or your whole week, your whole month is taken care of. So rather than desperation, faith. But it's like, okay, how do you actually believe that? It's a difficult one. I think it's the easiest thing to lose is your faith, because you see things, oh, everything showing me that it's not gonna work out, and then at some point, like, it just goes through. So I guess that was the first.
Yeah, I spent the summer in Wisconsin door knocking in the suburbs, trying to get people to donate money for a environmental
Uh,
nonprofit. So
uh-huh.
yeah, I got a taste of it.
Yeah, you have to just never say die. You always think the next one's gonna work out, and it usually does.
Yeah, you build thick skin. Okay, so I guess when did you move to the U.S. and I guess what did that look
I was uh I was invited to work in a mall. Like I met this girl in Brazil, and the year was 2003. I had just had a son. Another long story. And I met this girl at a music festival, and she was Israeli. And she told me, she really liked me. We spent a few months together. She was really intelligent, this and that. She said, hey, you know, your parents have 7 kids. They're never going to be able to afford you to leave here or send you to college or anything like that. Like, you're smart, but you're never going to get an opportunity to, because your parents are over, they had 7 kids and they were missionaries. They didn't really know squat about building a business or even affording us a life outside, a roof and food, kind of. So she said, why don't you go? They paid my ticket, and my first one was for rent. And I showed up to Chicago, like, yeah, see, first job in the States. And I started selling also. It was one of these kiosks in the mall, and you made only commission, and you just had to sell this head massages. So I would walk up, people would walk by like, la 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 la, stay, try this, and put it on their heads, and they would get the shivers, and then they would buy it. It was like they called it, it was like I forget what the term was, quick sale, like flash sales. Yeah. You have to do it in 30 seconds, otherwise it won't go through. So if you hesitate,
yeah, it's like an infomercial thing.
wow.
Man, what did you think when you got to Chicago and you're like selling head scratchers? Were you like stoked to be there? Or you were like, what am I doing here?
It was some days I
Were you with the girls?
some days I dated. It was like some days you could make good money, and then it really went from my inside. If I was happy, I could sell, and if I wasn't, it's an attitude thing.
Right.
Either you can be contagious to sell something, or be like, oh, the same exact. Yeah, I personally, I don't like malls so much, so it felt restricting. But I did it for 5 months in the winter. Like the dead of Chicago winter was so.
That's impressive. 5 months.
Yeah, and then after that part was over. I was in the States already. I didn't quite make the money I wanted. I took a Greyhound to Toronto, Canada, and I worked for 7 months in driver. In the winter, I was almost like putting up driver.
How'd you get that job?
So the community in Toronto of Portuguese and Brazilians was really strong. So what would happen is Canada is really immigrant friendly,
yeah,
because they need all the Canadians are, university graduates. So they want laborers. So they just bring in immigrants. And that's how I had a friend from Brazil that was in Toronto. She said, come here and work. It's easy to get a job. And I got a job with some Portuguese dudes, and I was just building houses for 5 months, 7 months. Yeah, that's how. And then I went to LA for 5 years, and then I came here. Yeah.
All right.
It's about a trap.
I know. So, okay. So when you got here, I guess, what were you doing work-wise? And then I guess maybe we can get into like the word and stuff, like how you started the company.
Yeah, that's also something that happened. Kind of, I got into shipping. I got into moving because I was in LA. I was working at a produce shop. I wasn't a person that really planned my career. I was like, okay, we're here. I got a lot of energy.
You can tell so far.
I have a lot of energy, I was like fearless. I didn't have much, I was like just hungry. So my sister.
And was going back to Brazil an option for you? Or you're just like, I'm just going to keep going at it?
Like, I have a son, but when I finished what I planned for in the beginning in my mind was, I'm going to make 10 grand. I'm going to go back. I'm going to work these 5 months here. when I first got there, I'm going to save 10 grand. I'm going to go back to Brazil and go into university for psychology. I want to be a psychologist. The 5 months went by, I had $1,400 saved. So I went to Canada. So it just became this extension of the
Right.
story. And then by year 4 was when I actually had the time and the money to go back to Brazil. I went back, I spent 3 months. By then my son was 4 already. I was like, wow, okay, my life's already in the States. And that way, like yeah, that by then I already knew that I wasn't going to go back to live in Brazil. Like, gotcha. Yeah. So I've been going back every couple of years, mostly to see it. Yeah. And then your question was about the work in LA.
Well, I guess just like how did you eventually make your way to Hawaii?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I guess what were you doing leading up to that point? That
I worked for a bit in moving as well. Well, I started working in moving in '05, and we had a lot of companies in the San Fernando Valley, moving companies, and they needed guys who could drive like to Bellingham, Washington, down to San Diego. So I jumped. They were like, "Well, can you drive stick?" Uh-huh. Because I could.
Yeah.
But I had never driven a truck in my life. 26-foot truck. But like, yeah. Okay, here's your 2-3 worker guys. Go run the job. And I jumped in LA traffic driving one of these, the 26-foot, like the Enterprise. Yeah. And then air brakes and stuff. And then I started driving more. I enjoy it. And I would drive, like take a 20-hour drive to Seattle, load a truck, drive back, that kind of stuff. I did that for almost a couple of years. It's very intense in the summer. You work a lot, and then in the winter it's kind of so. And I became friends with a guy who was in production. They put me in the art department as a PA and just going out, which was almost like moving because you go out with a truck, same thing, and then you got to load up the truck with furniture, and then you bring it to set, and then you hand furniture. It's kind of like a more refined moving job, just building sets for commercials and stuff. And then when the crash happened in '08, '09, I was still working production, but there was no jobs. And at the same time that took a dive, there was also a writer's strike going on. So every production company said, we're not going to start because we're going to have to stop in the middle of if the writers are going to strike, the whole business is going to stop. So they barely worked for months and months. And that's when I think I didn't work for a full 90 days, like 5 months. I had no money. Like I had the savings because I've been working a lot on production and spent all my savings. And that's when I got back into moving. And as soon as I got back, about 6 weeks in, the company I was working with, they said, hey, we're starting our shop in Hawaii. We want to build stuff there. You seem like a guy with nothing tying you down. We like how you work. Want to go? Like think fast. Yeah. And they sent me here. And then once I got here, I worked with them for about 1.5 years.
Was this like a big national moving company?
It's a national moving company. Yeah. Nowadays they're like a $50 million company buyer. They got military contracts. They're big now. But at the time they had just started their Hawaii operation, which led to just coming out here and just by myself, I was doing jobs on 4 islands and supposedly managing everything, but I didn't know anything about managing a business. Right. I got burned out. I got out of that company. I started working with another company that was, between that and I also did a little bit of production work here on Oʻahu for about 6 months that year of 2010. And then they were having like Hawaii Five-0, Off the Map, a few different productions. So I put out my resume, said I worked in LA. I was like, yeah, started working as a sec, like just like I told you, like the cable wrapper, just helping out the camera department. And then I got back into moving. I worked for 10 years for a company that also ships, mostly their shop is in LA. They ship out here. And my job was to train crews and to get all the work. So I was like a regional manager for them for 10 years. And then after about 5-6 years into it, I was like, how's this going to get better? Are we going to improve every year? See like kind of the same cycle. And I was always hanging by a thread in that I didn't own my own destiny. I didn't like just working for somebody that could pull the rug out from under me at any point.
Mm-hmm.
And uh, that used to stress me out a lot. Like
I'm laughing because it's funny because everyone thinks corporate gigs are like safe.
Yeah.
Versus starting your own, but they're really not. Like people get fired all the time.
Yeah, because I guess, and I can't blame the person who owns the business, but if you start, what happens over time with experience, you want to get paid more. And then they're like, oh, what's the, the relation between having somebody that doesn't fuck up the job and costs me more, or somebody new that makes more mistakes, but is taking a smaller paycheck. So whenever they're paying you, literally every 2 weeks or whatever, they're putting those two things on the scale, right? Yeah. And for me, I'm like, man, if I'm starting a career and I see a business that's pretty much infinite, right? As soon as they had a carriage and a piece of furniture, like moving is some of the oldest things ever, right? Household goods. So it's like, this is an infinite amount of business anywhere you go in the world, pretty much. I'm like, why do I keep hitting this ceiling with the guy? And at some point, I took a course on the things that I was missing, which was just the office work, the sales and marketing component. And I said, okay, off to the races. And that was in November 2019. And so we've had the company since 2019. And then we actually opened an office in March 2023.
So when you left, you had nothing? Did you have some clients lined up? Or I guess what was your plan like right when you left? Or were you already working on this in the background while you were
when you
still employed?
Yeah, we did a year where we ran concurrently, but because I was the main man for my business and for his business, it was like I couldn't do both.
Right.
So my business didn't suffer. I was bankrolling from the money I was making from their work to start doing advertising, to pay for a website and all these things. But the company only really started to take off when I was able to not do everything and get, a salesperson at a dispatcher to the operation, and I could start to calm down. Otherwise, I'd be like on the computer at 6:30 in the morning. Yeah.
Well, I can imagine if you were trying to start a competing company.
It's
doing
not
the same thing that it would be in.
It seems like it's competition, but we wanted to do local mostly because long distance moving, in my experience, was already more problematic, meaning long delivery times. Shipping gets handled 5 different times. So the nature of moving, I shouldn't say that's what is damage. It's like however many times you move something, the odds are that it's gonna, so the more you move it, meaning if you're shipping from Connecticut over here, more likely you're going to get really, really pissed because it's going to take 2-3 months and then you're going to have a damage. So I knew already that before I went into long distance, I had to have already a good reputation and already had to have a good system around it, not just start with that. So we did the first 5 years of the company just local and built a really good reputation because like pick up here, drop off there, and just within. Yeah. So we built a really good reputation off of that. So my original idea wasn't to compete with them, was to know the long distance part is a lot more complex. So I could easily do local. That's what my idea.
Local meaning like someone's lease just ended and they're moving from one house to the next?
Yeah.
And businesses too, or I guess what?
Businesses too. A lot of times people, they just need to move partially their house. Let's say you're renovating a couple rooms in your house and you need storage. So we're going to send, 2-3 really good looking guys to your house and do all that. And just pay.
Right. Okay. So when you started like with one truck, or I guess what was your
I was renting trucks.
Okay.
I was renting trucks from Penske.
You're renting?
Yeah, just renting trucks. And Penske's been our business partner for years and years. They're really, really good. I love working with Penske. So they always had. But yeah, we did that for a long time.
And are you leasing just to keep your capital costs low?
Because
or you
eventually
end up wanting out.
Yeah, the seesaw effect of it is that, the summer's super busy. You'll need double the amount of trucks. And then in the winter, you're running 1 or 2 trucks. That's how it's always been. So the way to mitigate that kind of is okay, I'll do monthly or 6 months lease, something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why do you think there's so much seasonality in Hawaii? Because I'm trying to figure that out too. Even like from the real estate perspective.
We were talking about that. The winter in the whole country is like that, no? I mean,
Typically, yeah.
yeah.
I think a lot of it lines up with schools.
But it's the same, like it'll triple in the summer. I'm like, wait a second. It's not like there's nobody moving in the winter, even here. Like it's never really winter over here.
Right.
So how come it varies so much? I don't know, man. I had no idea.
Yeah, my sense is it has a lot to do with school, when school
Mhm.
starts and when school ends, and then that trickles down into when leases start and leases end, and then if you're a landlord or a property manager, you want to get stuck with a lease that ends in January, so you try everything you can to like push that into the summer, and then everybody
Okay.
starts stacking at the same time.
Okay.
Yeah, that's just the sense I get.
Yeah, it doesn't still, to me, it doesn't excuse for it be like, let's say you do 20 moves in the winter and then in the summer it's like 7. It's like triples the
Triple
Yeah,
the amount in the
like,
summer.
yeah. So still it could see like it's got to be a lot of things compounded or stacked together.
Right.
Like,
Okay. So when did you start the business? In 2019?
mhm.
And then I guess like maybe talking a little bit about how it's scaled over time.
My first business, the first business I opened was IKEA to Hawaii in 2016. And I was, yeah, it's going to work really good. And then turned out the cost was really high to ship just a pallet is like $1,000. So it ended up not. I built the website, everything. I did a few orders and that didn't really, yeah, that kind of lost its momentum. Then the company Hero Moving was just me in the beginning. After I got off the truck, I hired a few guys that have been with us up until now. And um, the needle movers are making connections with people. I think more than just most of the business comes through the internet, Google and Andy's List and, not so much Yelp, but mostly Google. But getting really good referrals means that we're meeting people personally. So I think that first spark starts with Google. They search for you, but then people move. There's people that move every year or every 2 years. And I've moved somebody that went back and forth from mainland like 3 times already. Yeah. Dude, that's 6 moves. And
I mean, I think I moved like 7 times in like 6 years in
Mhm.
San Francisco. So I
Mhm.
was one of those people.
Yeah. So just imagine the amount of stress that you went through getting a different moving company every single time. And it's like mechanics. There's like
Yeah.
horror stories. I'm going to get overcharged. They're going to steal my shit, all this kind of stuff. So to me, it's like the more headache or the bigger the problem that I can solve with my business,
Mhm.
the more likely people are to be like, you know what? I want to sit with these guys for good. And that's how it's been. A lot of referrals and just becoming well known. And also not being afraid of when we do something wrong or something bad happens to just talk to people directly. Because I used to get pissed if somebody either yelled at me or cussed at me, like then I'd want to not attack the person, but I resent that. And I had to took me a long time to just be able to not come back at them with the same attitude that they're hitting at me. I'm like, okay, think about it and yeah, just become a better people person. I think has been the main thing.
Cool. So you started with 1 or 2 trucks. I guess like fast forward to today, I guess where are you at? How many employees do you have? Like, what trucks are you managing?
Now our team we got about 10, 12 guys out right now. We got 3 trucks. We should have 5 by the end of midsummer, something like that. And the operation is, of course, a dispatcher, 2 salespeople right now, myself. I do things like this and marketing and numbers, but I um also having somebody to coach and consult with is somebody I added to my team recently because I think I'm doing everything right. And then I ask somebody, and they're like, no, you got to do this, this, and that. So I guess my limitation with around money is I can't afford to have somebody to teach me. I'm like, yeah, but if I was doing it right, I would be making that much more money and I would more than be able to afford that. So going back to what you said, what you asked, our capability right now, we can run 3 trucks every day. We got crew, we got a good sales team, and we're really amped up to grow a lot. Like I want to grow the company by like 10x within 5 years. So that means doing a lot more long distance moving, uh, getting contracts. That's a lot of what happens here, like VOD, stuff like that, Department of Defense, Army, and so forth, government contracts. And also the real estate part of it, which would be get a big warehouse and then become, storage. It's crazy how much you can use storage. Yeah.
Okay. So, okay. Cause you told me you were looking at a warehouse.
Mhm.
But I was thinking to myself, what would you guys need a warehouse for if you're just moving things?
Mhm.
So you also store things or not?
Yes, we have a warehouse right now that's small. It's like 4,000 square feet. But anytime we make a promotion, say, hey, you know, if we do your renovation move, so we move you out, we move you back in within a couple of months, we'll give you 1 month free. All of a sudden, we fill the whole space. Wow, as there's a lot of demand for this. So, us having a bigger warehouse would just mean we'd be able to handle that demand. We would also be able to say, like any store, hey, you need storage space for cheaper than an actual storage space, right? So that's
Or if someone's like, hey, I want to move and I have this 2 month gap.
Yeah.
I don't know what to do with my stuff.
Yeah.
You guys would take that in and
yeah,
pick it up, take it in, and then deliver it.
correct.
It's there.
So also, a lot of what happens here at Oʻahu is military moves. There's companies that own that military contract. And let's say this guy needs to move now in June, but the company only has a slot for him in August. What's he going to do? He's got to get out of the house. So we'll come in, pack the whole thing, store it for them. And then the military assigned company will come in on the certain date and pull it out of our warehouse. That's what we end up doing a lot in the summer.
Okay.
Yeah.
I want to go back to what you said about having a coach or someone. Is this someone that is an employee, or do you hire someone like an outside consultant type thing, or I guess what is that? I mean, a lot of the owners I've talked to on the show have something like that.
I've lost a lot of money trying to hire somebody to coach me. Like, I don't want to tell anybody, like, yeah, that's the solution to your problems, because it could be also a huge headache.
Right.
There's, I guess, anywhere that there's a lot of hype about coaching, and there's a lot of people that might get into it and not have the whole package. And I mean, there's a lot of levels to it too. So 5 years ago, I would have needed a completely different person from the person I need now. Now I need somebody that can teach me how to, guarantee my profitability, be able to keep my marketing. And so as the company grows, my needs when my company was making 100 or 200,000 a year are different from a company that's wanting to make 1 million or 2 or 3, right?
Right.
And it's so that's meant that as I've learned, I need a coach who's a few steps ahead of me. So necessarily that would be somebody that has had a business that has made that or more, that has been able to sell it, that's been able to stabilize that business, and most likely home services, things like that. So and after I get through this phase of growing the company, who knows, I'm going to need another type of coach. So it's just something every time I go kind of shopping, I was like, okay. And, they can cost a pretty penny. So if
I steal through referrals or.
Yeah. Well, within the moving community, because of social media, that now there's a lot of people that you can find just, also through networking, but usually if I'm talking to one group of people or one person that's already got a well-developed company, they'll know of somebody that either has been a company owner or has been in another similar business that has just a lot of information to spread. And then, of course, being like the whole mastermind thing, having a group of people that are in similar business to talk to is priceless. So just the daily, I guess a lot of my questions around what to do on a day-to-day basis have been solved by just having a bigger team.
Yeah.
And everybody's pulling information from different, so it's not just me solving anything. Right? Yeah.
Yeah. So mastermind group, for anyone listening, is kind of like a peer group of people in your industry, and it's typically ran by someone. There's a ton of them in real estate, investing. There's a bunch of them, every different vertical of owning a business, which is cool.
Yeah, and it ends up being people that also we're going to end up being personally involved with to a certain level. People I like. I'm not going to sit and have a mastermind with somebody who's an ass.
Yeah,
it's somebody that is personable to me, and that I end up liking their personality, and that makes learning from them easier, so we can relate on different levels. So yeah, that idea, I first got introduced to it through Think and Grow Rich, right? That book. And then I thought about, it's like, I think I read that book the first time like 6 years ago, something like that, 6-7 years. And then the more I read it 3 times. So every time I read it, I was like, okay, this is something I need. This is something I need. And since 2019, when I started educating myself, when I started paying for courses, is when I became like, oh, this is actually good. I went from being this person to being somebody completely. Anybody that knows me knows that I went through this mad transformation because I decided that I took this cap away from how much money I was willing to spend on myself. So physically, mentally, education, all kinds of stuff. I know and it's something that's difficult to say, like, oh, if I buy a cell phone, here's what I bought. It's okay, you can buy an education. How do you measure that?
Yeah.
Right? Some people, I used to have that fear behind. It's like, how am I gonna measure this, or how am I gonna know that this has been effective in my life? And then the answer is, I'd have to keep doing it. It's like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have any? I mean, I've taken a few different courses, and every time I've done it, it's kind of like paid for itself, like 10x. But are there any specific ones that you've done that are like really impactful?
Now I just started to learn about ham radio after the floods. I was like, I want to know something else. Handheld amateur radio.
Oh,
Because the floods happened. It's like, the cell phone, what if this thing doesn't work? And I became kind of, I was like, why are you doing this? I said, man, I need something else. And I'm learning about amateur radio. And it turns out there's a amateur radio here. And it's all about disaster preparedness and the situation, like what happened. So I'm actually going to go learn here. But the main things outside of something directly related to moving, which I've done a few years in a row, I also got into a personal development course that has made me grow a lot. They're called Clemmer. They've had a huge impact on my life. There's a lot of groups say they're kind of religion based or Christianity based. But what I like about the group is that they're not trying to push Christianity on me. They're pushing responsibility, showing up, and really digging into things that me as a person could improve on. Like, I didn't know, once I was put in a group setting and they started putting us in these different situations, they're like, oh, this is how you show up. Huh. I was like, oh, really? Yeah. So starting to get to know myself and starting to know the things that I don't like about myself. And I can talk to somebody about it. I'm not scared of it because I said, yeah, everybody has some shit that you don't like. And the more prompt I can be about my own shortcomings, I guess, the quicker I can get to some kind of solution for it. Or find somebody that does something better than me. And okay, we do this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool. Maybe we can talk a little bit, just like what's next for the business. I
Mhm.
know you talked a little bit about like you want to scale up pretty big. I know we talked a little bit off camera about the bunker
Mhm.
warehouse. Maybe we don't talk about that, but yeah, like what's on your mind for like what's upcoming on the business? You're like, what is the next couple projects thing you're working on?
The next few things that I want the company to be doing is become the household name for local moving and for warehousing. It's just, it's a business that can grow and grow and grow. And we want to keep, this whole thing with the flood just really emphasized to me how it is a personal thing. Like, become friends with the people we're doing work for, and that's how the business is going to grow more. Like, people know us personally, you know, and you know this, like, you do business with people, you go to Costco, you know somebody you bought or sold a house from, and
Yeah.
things like that. So it's like less of, and this can sound kind of cliche, I guess, but the point of people knowing who I am, how I operate, how I treat people, how I pay people, that has to do with my business too. It's like I don't think that anymore that there's so much separation between my professional life and my personal life. They're one and the same, being that my work, and you know, I'm not an athlete or anything. I feel like my work is the biggest expression of myself. And different people have different ways to express themselves. But so far in my life, the thing that has made me grow the most and has forced me out of my shell or out of myself has been my business. So yeah, I would say that it's been my biggest, like, you know, expression.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah.
It's funny. I'm going through that same thing right now where it's like in real estate, it's like people don't want to work with a brand. They want to work with a person.
Mhm.
It's like, how do you get more people to like get to know you better? Not just like the work that you're doing, but like,
Yeah.
so I'm kind of in the same stage too. It's like,
Do you feel like your threshold for people has to go up, or you're kind of sociable in general? Or you just have to have more. I don't know. There's that too. You know, it just depends if you're really introvert or more.
I get energy by meeting people in person, which is part of the reason why I don't work in corporate real estate anymore, and I do stuff like this in person. And there's a reason why I do the podcasting in person and not over the phone, because like Zoom calls just drain me. So I guess that part of it I like, but you know, you can always meet so many people in person. So it's like, how do you? I guess what I'm thinking about is like, how do I? How do people get to know me better, like online? So like, how do you? How are you more transparent about your life, things like that? So that's like what I'm going through, like brand wise. And it sounds like you're people the same thing too.
People will talk about that's also the trip. It's like you don't think so, but people do talk about you, and the more you get to, I guess you're right. We can't meet everybody.
Yeah.
I'm not a politician. Oh, hey,
You're running a business.
yeah, but I guess if we can make the quality of our encounters with people very valid and meaningful, just take time to stop. Like, you know, the first time I met you, I took that at 3 coffees. Talking so much. Like, you know, just be able to enjoy the moment with somebody. And that's gonna be a reason why people want to keep dealing with me, I guess, just to make it something enjoyable and try to take the stress out of it. Because the business itself has caveats and things that we can't change, right? You in real estate, myself in moving.
Yeah.
I can't change the fact that sometimes furniture breaks, things happen, you know, ships sink, shit like that.
Right.
But like, why would somebody want to deal with me rather than, you know, any other bigger company?
Totally.
Yeah.
Cool. I don't have too many like other prepped questions. I guess the last thing I was thinking about was just around marketing, because you said so much of your business comes from Google. Do you guys spend any money on marketing?
We spend a
what is
nice
that?
chunk of money on Google AdWords. Yeah.
Google Ads.
Yeah.
Okay.
Google Ads has been, I mean, we have a lot of organic searches already, but people always click on the first ad.
Right.
That's kind of like, even because it's a paid. Yeah. that one. And then as far as marketing, I'm also learning how to use Instagram. My gorgeous wife has the empanada business. A lot of people are going to meet an extension of me. Really good food. She helps me. She's got a really good mind around marketing. So she reposts all my business stuff. So I started doing that for her, and I'm just learning how to use it. Like the more organic stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Cool. Unless there's any other topics you want to touch on, I normally have a couple questions that I end on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess I wanted to say to everybody that's in Wailua and in North Shore, we've been involved in doing donation runs for furniture and appliances and things to the North Shore over the floods. And something that I want to do personally, either through churches or through charities or however that may look, is donate more of our resources, meaning trucks, packing supplies, stuff like that. If you have somebody that needs to move, or has been affected by floods and needs somebody to send a big truck out and do something, the trucks have lift gates, stuff like that. We're here to help. Give us a call, contact us. We want to be part of the community in that. Moving is something that everybody needs. So we are already a cornerstone of the community. We want to be more involved. So yeah, if you need help like that, we can do donation runs, and we can even we want to do a month or 1 or 2 moves a month as a donation, meaning like, hey, you want to get your friends together and do it? We'll supply the truck, the dollies, the packing supplies, everything. Go and do it. And that way, because it's expensive. Man.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that. My wife's a property manager, and she helps connect a few displaced people into temporary housing, but it's like, those people are eventually going to have to move back into something. So that just got my mind running. There's still a lot of people out there that are displaced that are going to end up.
It's tough.
In the house, so that are going to help.
It's a huge thing. I'm like, how many times have I moved and I didn't have to think about it because I haven't moved confidence? So it's a huge one. If either you're alone, you don't have a lot of people to help you, it's a huge cost as well. So we want to be able to help it as much as we can regarding that. That's what I wanted to say.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Appreciate that. Do you have any, I always ask this to everyone, but like any advice for aspiring entrepreneurs? It could be Hawaii specific, but not necessarily.
Yeah, start early. For me, like I'm 45. I started thinking about taking control of my life when I was 27, 28. That's when I got into management. But I only really got the thing, like the only way out of depending on something else. Owning a business puts you in direct. It's like, you're waiting for somebody to hand over a bowl for you. How much are they going to put in here? Let's use that analogy versus directly taking your own ladle and going in, and you have direct access to the market, having your own business. And it doesn't change that I'm going to make all those mistakes. Like I started later. It means I have less time or maybe the same amount of time, but I'm just going to be more into my years before I see any real huge success. You can start at 20 and learn at the same rate, and by 30 be a millionaire. So it's like the just go in, and the thing is like be open to break through your face. I got to be open to if I turned around and lost my company tomorrow, I would do the same thing again. Like I would open another business. I would continue because it's the best way we've come up with actually being independent.
Yeah. That's good advice.
Yeah.
Although I do think like you probably have more conviction in your business because you had been working in the industry for so long. That probably helped you. But the thing looking back, you probably could have left your role a lot sooner.
Mm-hmm. I have faith in the basic. We're at the foundation of the economy, right? Food, housing, transportation, and sex work. Don't talk about that. But those 3 things, if you're
enough YouTube and
sorry. So these 3 things, if you're anywhere near these are indestructible. Anything could happen if you run a shuttle company from the air. All those things that are associated with eating, transportation, and housing, we don't go a day without it.
Yeah.
Everything that we see here in this room has gotten here by means of a container. Nothing was made here. So people actually understood how the intricacies of really the world that we live in, everything that arrives in a container. How many companies need to service Matson to empty that boat every single week when it arrives with, I don't know, like 300-400 out containers on it, So it's super strong. And I started to understand that and like, oh, well, this is kind of silently has been moving around me my whole life. I only really opened my eyes to it and like, oh, business is a powerful thing, right? And then to be able to do it yourself, and it gives me acid power. Like I have power in the world. I can change something. I can go and make money. I do changes in my life and other people's lives. So being in business takes a while to grow into it, especially because I never got any kind of education around it. But nowadays, it changed my life completely. It changed who I am because I can go and have influence in the world around me because I can afford to. Yes.
Cool.
Yeah.
Right on. That's all I got. I appreciate the time.
Thank you, man.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
Thanks so much. This is fun.